Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Screen Cap. We are your hosts, Cenon and Avie. Hello.
Hi.
Ayan. And for this episode, pag-uusapan natin ang isa sa mga finalists sa nakaraang Cinemalaya 2022. Kasama siya sa short film category, ang pelikulang Dikit. At kasama natin ngayon ang writer, director na si Gabriela Serrano. At kasama rin natin ang kanyang co-writer, actor, at ang kanyang very dedicated na sister, si Mariana Serrano. I'm sorry. Hi, Gabriela and Mariana.
Hello, good morning.
Ayan. But before we proceed, panoorin muna natin itong trailer. What is Dikit about?
Well, the very basic synopsis is it's about a young woman who has a monstrous secret, who then becomes obsessed with a couple who moves across the street from her. And this young woman, she's desperate to find a new body, to change her body. And when this new couple arrives in her life, she sees her chance to finally get one. So it's a silent split screen film, and it's an adaptation of a lost silent film by Jose Nepomuceno from the 1920s. But this is a very loose adaptation. We created an entirely new story, and we treat the main character, which I'm sure by now people have heard, is a Manananggal. We treat her as an anti-hero in this story, and we see how she and this couple's lives intertwine for the good or for maybe more sinister reasons.
Okay. Ano ba ang genre nitong pelikula na to? And is it an LGBTQ film?
Well, when we started off, we knew we just wanted to tell like a straightforward horror drama. And we left the ending very open to interpretation. We knew it would be maybe perceived as maybe just a friendship, maybe as a romantic relationship. But of course, we were open to the fact that it would be perceived as an LGBT film. We were very open to that. And yun nga po, nung na-release yung film at we received this warm kind of reception from the LGBT community. We were really happy about it. Yes. I think they really resonated with the characters that we wrote. Especially, we were happy about it having explored our own gender identity, our own sexuality as women. Kaya we're so happy that na-embrace po siya ng LGBT community. Before we even released the film, we already spoke to each other about the story in depth and thought this could be very well a queer story. And we knew that from the get-go. Yeah. And we were, like I said, very open to an interpretation of the film that was LGBT nga po. We were open to also maybe straight interpretations of their relationship,
where
more
it could
platonic,
just be a platonic one,
but
a motherly one,
a maternal one. But we were really expecting their relationship to be perceived that way. And I think a spoiler alert for those who haven't seen the film. In our perfect world, if we were to expand the story, I think those two women really would have ended up together. In a romantic sense, and raise the child together.
Further down the line
as two mothers, as two partners. So when people started really calling it an LGBT film, we really had no objections kasi it was an interpretation we had embraced from the writing stage pa lang.
So you knew that you were writing a love story.
Yes.
In the beginning pa lang. Oh, nice to hear.
Hindi, tsaka hindi yung maganda doon sa doon sa mga ganong klaseng pelikula, especially, and case in point itong Dikit, na the audience is a participant in the experience, 'di ba? Hindi lang sila although syempre as filmmakers, meron kang intention, 'di ba? Kung ano yung gusto mong maintindihan nila, kung ano yung gusto mong makita nila or mapanood nila, yung takeaway nila. But in the end, ang audience aariin nila 'yan eh. 'Di ba? Aangkinin nila 'yan. Iyaano nila sa sarili experience, sa sarili it's going to be very the experience is going to be very subjective.
Yes.
'Di ba? Kung like for example, ganito yung experiences ko or ganito yung tingin ko, at sinabi ko na no, this is an LGBTQ film, this is a lesbian film na ganyan. Wala tayong magagawa as creators, 'di ba? And I think that's what I like about these two filmmakers, na open sila sa ganon. Hindi nila ini-impose kung ano talaga dapat lang yung interpretation. Diba? Mas malawak.
It feels as a viewer, you're a collaborator. I think it's one of the appeals. The appeal of Dikit.
We really enjoyed,
yes.
Because we basically went every day in Cinemalaya, and so we'd roam around CCP a lot, and we'd experience a lot of people, not a lot, but like some people who have watched the film come up to us and
well, actually a lot kasi lagi ako nakapila pag manonood ako na ganyan. Tapos naririnig ko, pinapahinggan ko yung marami akong naririnig ng magagandang feedback about your film. Anyway, you were saying
so ayun po, they'd come up to us and we'd be able to spark conversation about the film, and they'd ask us if they could share their interpretation of the film. We'd be like, of course, like please, like we'd love to hear them. And they would range from a purely lesbian relationship romantic, to like their interpretation of them just finding a piece of themselves in each other. Sorry. So it's like when you see that range of interpretations, it's so heartwarming because people really, it's like I'm also meeting you. It's like I'm also getting to know you through your interpretation of our film, which is basically our any filmmaker's intent, right?
Yeah.
To
for
be
people
able
to
touch,
resonate talaga.
Touch the viewers,
yeah, actually kasi once ko pa lang siya napanood, dahil dito ko lang siya napanood sa Cinemalaya. Ang interpretation ko naman sa kanya is it's a very it's a feminist film. 'Di ba? It's a story of struggles and eventual emancipation and yung bond of the two women na ganon. Actually hindi ko siya nakita as LGBTQ na pelikula. Ang mas nakita ko is like the sisterhood, yung sorority ng mga babae. Yun.
Ako naman na-appreciate ko yung nakikita yung duality ng identity there, that there is strength and there's weakness pa ang tawag, for lack of a better term. There's weakness and there's strength together existing. Yung parang, di ba yung cliche na courage and fear coexist. Parang ganun in both characters.
Yeah, true.
Sa dalawang babae. Exciting. And let me say that the form itself also being split screen and that they're not talking, diba? That also is another layer of appeal, diba? Can you share bakit ganun yung decision? Bakit split screen? Pinahirapan niyo pa yung mga sarili, no? bakit wala nagsasalita? Explain, because for some audiences, maybe that's not something very common.
There's so many layers, honestly.
I think one thing na I'm not sure many of our audiences from Cinemalaya were aware of is that our film started out as a call for entries to another film festival last year, 2021, the International Silent Film Festival, or the Mid-Out Sound Silent Film Competition of FDCP, Film Development Council of the Philippines. And their initial brief was to adapt this list of films ni Jose Nepomuceno na so there was an pre-existing list of films that the entrants were to choose from to adapt into contemporary retellings. So ang Manananggal was one of the titles on that list. And of course, these are all silent films. All these films have no existing footage existing on the internet or available on any libraries or archives. So we were really invited to recreate these stories with any information we could find online, and then rework them to our own liking. So we created a pitch um, for Ang Manananggal. So we did research on Ang Manananggal ni Jose Nepomuceno. We couldn't find any plot information besides the fact na, yun nga, ang Manananggal, ang villain ng story, siya yung nagte-terrorize ng barangay. And we found out that it was one of the earliest horror films in the Philippines. And it was successful because they used a really effective, at the time, it sounds elementary now, pero they used a technique where they would bury the manananggal actors as bodies in the ground halfway. So when they were shot, they looked like they were half body lang. So parang we took inspiration from Jose Nepomuceno's use of a practical effect, and making it into something visionary at the time. So we thought, instead of really sticking to any kind of plot we could find about the film, why don't we make an entirely new one, but instead celebrate the essence of the film by maybe trying to do something different with our form. In the same way that Nepomuceno used a new technique, those tricks up his sleeve. Why don't we try something original or unconventional with the form? So brainstorm kami, how do we do this? And then I'm not sure, but we were talking about it one day. And I was really looking at a lot of video art na multi-channel at the time, works by Shirin Neshat, Iranian filmmaker, for example, with multi-channel works. And I realized this duality, this dual screen would be a really interesting way to explore the Manananggal's form in a cinematic way. Kasi yun nga, we know that the Manananggal's body splits into two. So why don't we tell the story of Manananggal through this kind of fragmented diptych kind of format?
So yeah, like story-wise, we basically, the only thing we could base our plot on was the title. So most of our inspiration from research went into the form
of the film. Yes, that's the origin of Dikit.
Naka-silent ka, Cenon.
Sorry, nakamit pala ako. Yeah. Ayun. Sorry, since you mentioned na rin yung visual treatment na ginamit yung split screen and all, I just want to and this is not like to diminish the effort, because I think it can it can stand on its own. I'm just were you aware, ito baka hindi niya na inabutan kasi there's this 90s na music video ng Semisonic na band na yung Closing Time na parang ganun din, split screen. Ayun. And then also there's this like 90s din yata na movie ni Peter Greenaway na starring Ewan McGregor. Tapos ang title niya is Pillow Book. Tapos ganun din naka-layout yung mga parang it's like magazine, several frames in one frame. Tapos and these things are happening all at the same time, yung mga gano'n. So I ang question ko is, were you aware of this or talagang biglang naisip niyo na ganito yung gagawin namin?
Yeah, I think we were aware naman of existing split screen work. You mentioned the 90s music video in Closing Time. I think of another 90s music video na split screen din. I think it's by Chibomato. I forgot the title of the music video, but yes, we were aware, and but surprisingly, we didn't really think about them during the conception of Dikit. Of course, parang it would be, I guess, not to diminish their work also, and of course, we respect the work that has the split screen works that have already come out. But surprisingly, during our development, I think it was almost kind of subconsciously but intentional that we didn't look at any existing split screen work, because we wanted to try to make something new. And I think at the same time we were avoiding parang just using split screen as like a novelty,
Yeah.
or parang just something that we could do to make our film more special, because I think at the end of the day the form really dictated the narrative. And I don't believe it would be the same film had we gone just the single frame route.
We just really had to tell two stories
At the same time.
in parallel.
Yes. And yeah, like what I said, it's it stood its ground, the film. And ayun na, parang ako lang hindi ko alam, siguro probably it's my age, and it was the first time kasi na nakakita ako ng ganon. That's why when I saw your film, it kind of reminded me of those of that film and that music video right away, because for me that time it was in a sense kind of a novelty ng gano'n. Tapos, and parang after so many years na ganyan, tapos parang feeling ko, and ako, I wouldn't be surprised if hindi nyo talaga siya nadinig at all. Kasi gano'n na nga siya gano'n na siya
Ito naman, may paribili ka ng age. Pero ako rin nung pinapanood ko yung Dikit, parang after a few, maybe a minute, sabi ko, ay, paninindigan pala nila to. Akala ko, lang pa-OBP lang tayo Ay, papanindigan nila pala yung split screen. But you mentioned earlier, it being a silent film was because of the call in that other festival. But while you were doing it, like, were you instantly comfortable making it a silent film? Or were there like wishes na, ay, dapat na lang to?
My sound.
Yeah.
I think
Our dialogue.
our dialogue.
No, I think she meant or dialogue. Not
Yeah.
sound.
I think there was an ease, especially given the fact na it was my first time really directing a film. I had made short films before on my own, very personal films na may sound. But this was the first time I really held a production na may grant, may real crew. So I think when we approached this film, my background pala is in illustration and graphic design. I used to make comics and I used to illustrate for newspapers. So I consider myself a very visual storyteller. Kaya po, when the chance came to make this film, maski silent po siya, I think we both relished the fact na we could tell the story entirely visually. Although we have collaborated on dialogue before, parang this time was a chance for us to really just use the image to tell this story. So that was exciting for me as a former comics artist, illustrator, to explore these characters without any words. So parang hindi po siya naging hadlang masyado. Actually, mas madali siya i-edit without sound. But at the same time, yes, there were moments during the making of the script na parang, this would be so much easier
if she had just said what she felt.
But
Yeah.
challenge then as the actor.
No, but yeah, interestingly, I wanted to add also, as the actor, I was fairly comfortable in the whole silent aspect of the film. Coming from a dance background po kasi, I'm pretty comfortable in expressing myself through my body. So that, for me, it was kind of, I don't want to say it was easy. This was my first acting gig. But I think also I owe it to just like the safe space that you created on set as the director. There was a lot of trust between us. Like jump to that.
You want to know also, like, we also want to know why the decision for you to be the one to act and yung mga ganyan.
Oh.
Kasi namin yung mga yan.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
I just wanted to also
agree.
add, because we were talking about yung non-verbal
Yes,
aspect
yes.
of the film, and I think sa writing pa lang, of course, we knew it would be a silent film. So, this was a huge consideration sa casting namin. When we put out a casting call, we put a note there, uh, dance or sports background, a plus.
So kailangan yung actors na are very sanay sa physical.
Physical
Oo.
expression. And a lot of we actually saw a number of actors for the roles.
That
She
did.
originally wasn't going to play the character.
I was actually
Ano,
supposed to play the
She was
girlfriend.
going to play the girlfriend. Pero
But then, kailangan nung magpa-straight ng buhok pag ganyan.
Oo. Tapos iba
Yeah. But yeah.
yeah. So those few actors that we saw did come from dance backgrounds or sports backgrounds, and we were really looking for people who could express their emotions through their bodies or through their faces talaga. We did online auditions, we did chemistry tests, and we had actually were set on these particular people for the roles, with some being in the girlfriend role.
Yeah.
But then as we went along,
As we further developed the story and the characters, it
Oo.
made more and more sense for me to play her. I
Yeah.
was like,
there was a moment. no?
there's a moment
We were rewriting the script at one point.
because I was so sure that I was gonna play the girlfriend.
Oo.
Like I was already getting into her head, and then like as the co-writer, I was also, of course, on the other side writing the Manananggal. And then there came a point where I was actually even shy to approach you
Oo.
about it. I was like,
But then I
Ate,
sensed it.
I'm not like, I know this is, I don't know how you're gonna take this, but I mean, I'm kind of embarrassed to ask you about this. Like, I'm not trying to steal the spotlight or something, but I feel like I'm her. I feel like
Yeah.
I'm the Manananggal. Like it just, I'm gravitating towards her. It's like I know her. She's me.
Yeah. And at that point, parang na-sense ko na din. So I was like, shit, nga, no?
Yeah. We both like, you feel me.
Oo.
And she was like, okay.
So, yun, we made the decision to switch the role.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and thankfully after that we found the perfect girlfriend, my friend
To
Mika,
fill in.
who did such a great job in her role.
So
Also,
also a first-time actress.
yeah, and Jarrett, who plays her boyfriend, we also found him in this
Dance film.
Yeah. So we're like, oh wow, he's so captivating. It was also like no dialogue or anything. He was just like expressing himself through dance, and we were hooked. We were like, oh, he's definitely the
perfect
person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basic. So, hindi natin to alam, ha? Na may sila, they were consciously looking for actors who are comfortable expressing through their body as medium. Okay yun na.
Yeah. Yeah, siguro nga kasi because malinaw yung vision nila of kung paano lalabas yung pelikula, how it's going to look like, how they're going to edit it, kung ano yung magiging tone, etc. So alam nila from the get-go, alam na nila kung ano yung kailangan nilang mga ingredients kasi hindi na sila manghuhula along the way. Ang next question ko lang sa inyo is syempre medyo in a sense may pagka-surrealist yung pelikula, and then it's playing on mythology, etc. Pero yung mga universal theme dito is like, I don't know, it's romance, it's friendship, it's feminism, it's emancipation, yung mga ganyan. Ang question ko is paano nyo ginamit yung mga experiences nyo para pumasok kayo dun sa character as you were developing the story?
Should I start?
Yeah.
We both have different experiences. Ako po, we developed the film in the middle of lockdown. At that point, parang we were on lockdown for more than a year na when the call for entries was posted. And then at that point in my life and in my career, siguro, I think I was really feeling lost. as a filmmaker. Since I had really wanted to make my own film for many years na, but I was not naman stuck. I was really enjoying my work as an editor, as an artist. But I felt like I could be doing more, and exploring my voice as a filmmaker. And at the same time, being in isolation for so long, thankfully with my family at the time. Pero, syempre, even if you're with your family, when you're on your own, in a way, without a social life or without any, nothing new happening uh, in your
The-
artistic fulfillment, I was thinking a lot about, who I was, my feminine identity, my identity as a professional, as a creative. So those were the initial feelings that were really brewing inside of me when the time came to make a script. So I think that translated in the both the female characters. I think they're both out of place sa kanilang lives, sa kanilang place in society, lalo na yung Manananggal. We wrote her as a character who was very tired of her nature na, as a monster.
Mm.
And that's why we wrote yung sequences where she would imagine herself as the women that she preyed on, as a happy human woman, na fulfilled and, of course, giving life, which of course she could never do, because of her form. So a lot of that was due to the fact that I think both me and Sam in isolation were dreaming about sunnier lives.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
also we were also questioning things like sexuality, our gender identity. And so Sam, how are you feeling during that time?
Yeah, I mean, just to add on, because we basically share that.
Oh,
I think also approaching it as like an actor, it was easier for me to really get into. Oh, we call the Manananggal M. That's what we call her. She
name.
initially had a name, but we were like, I don't think she has a name because she has no one to call her anything.
Yeah.
So we.
But that's really nice, ah. Ang that's a very nice insight for yeah. Anyway, sorry na ano lang ako. Sobrang natuwa ako doon sa maliit na detail na yon, which I think is very revealing and at the same time very interesting and very
Right.
intelligent at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
so
yes.
she's like gone through her entire life not having anybody. So we as writers just called her M for Manananggal, and it was easy for me to relate to her because at that time, interestingly, I was recently diagnosed with certain conditions, which just kind of made me feel a lot of loathing towards my body, and that
Conditions very specific to women then.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so as M's writer and the
Eventually.
yeah, I just I can't where was I? Sorry.
You were,
Yeah.
it was how you are relating to the character.
Yeah, I really relate to her in that aspect. It was easy for me to show, I guess, me despising my body, wanting someone else's body, even though that person didn't want their body. It's kind of like, it's something that I think all women can relate to, even people.
Jealousy.
Yeah,
Body image.
Yeah, it's not even exclusive to women. I think everyone feels this way, like wanting what you don't have. Yeah, of course, the envy, the inner loathing, the jealousy, the wanting for a love life.
A love
But
life or a different you.
yeah, just like a different you. So that was definitely the feelings that were ever present throughout the entire production and pre-production, that inspired us to develop these characters. As for the girlfriend, I spent less time on her than the Manananggal, although she is equally as important naman in the story. Sorry.
Our dad is taking a picture.
Dad!
Siya nga po yung production designer.
Right.
Yeah.
So and with the girlfriend, we also related to her because of course she is going through isolation. I feel like even though she has somebody in her life, she's as equally isolated as the Manananggal because there's no love there. So yeah, a lot of themes of loneliness and just daydreaming. I actually wanted to ask you guys, sorry. Nagtanong, but
Sure.
Introduce mo muna kami bago kami.
there are these scenes. I'm not sure if everyone was able to understand what it was, especially if you just watched it once. Maybe you might have missed it. But after each attack, we see in this like void. We call it the void. It's like a black.
Yung puro darkness lang.
Yes,
Yeah.
and she's kind of like in a character, like playing a character. Did you guys get to interpret that in your own way, or how did you see it?
Those moments where she will be dressed as the victim. That was an amazing addition there. It gives me space, I think, to get into the head of M. Because wala pa masyadong information niya. We know that she's creative, di ba? She does creative stuff, but then the creative stuff that she does is so different from the darkness that she has, yung ganon. So, konti lang kasi yung nalaman ko about her. So that part gives me a window to understand how she feels. No, parang, tapos I don't know really how you guys did it, but it made me feel like she didn't want to do what she does, but there is an impulse doing it. And I can totally relate. Like, we can talk about it for 3 hours. Kasi I can totally relate. Kasi diba, as you go along, like, growing, binanggit na rin sa yung pagtanda, di ba? Growing and really discovering your inner monsters. There are many things you don't want to do anymore.
Yes.
But you just can't, it's like your nature to do it. And then that gives me that snippet. There are so many things I like about your film. I'm also very interested in how competition among women is portrayed. And I'm thinking, like, as a feminist scholar, I was thinking, the more we talk about competition over sisterhood, the more we can unpack patriarchy, because it's what patriarchy has done to us.
Yes.
We envy each other's bodies, each other's stories. We aspire for what other women have, and we constantly see each other's competition. But then in the end, that's not really our nature. Like, we are nurturing, we are loving, but then the society has inscribed that to us, that we always compare ourselves. That it's clearly not our fault. But again, we participate in that too. Like, there is participation in that. Like her, in those moments, diba? I see her as she's pregnant. I know I'm gonna pray on this, but I don't want to do this. Yung ganong that was a good addition. Again, I can talk about this for 3 hours.
Actually, actually, to be very honest, after namin mapanood ni Avie, pinanood namin siya na magkahiwalay different times. So then, nung nakita kami sa Cinemalaya, we talked about it. Ang dami na namin na pag-usapan about this film. Yung sa akin, ang tingin ko kasi doon, it's like, parang, it's more of like, parang yung sinabi ni Avie, doing something, parang you cannot control the character, cannot control the urges. So, but every time na ginagawa niya yung mga bagay, whenever she gives into the instinct, and, the survival instinct and all, para napupunta siya sa limbo. It's always a crossroad for her. Like, napupunta siya dyan to introspect, 'di ba? To reflect on what has happened. That's how I say it. That's yun yung semiotics para sa akin nung ganung klaseng visual treatment. And at the same time, naalala ko kasi, I do not remember verbatim yung intro na text. Di ba parang meron kayong inaano later on itatanong ko sa inyo. Pero parang it's something like, if I'm not mistaken, parang the desire to get something, yung manananggal became such because of the desire to have something or to become something that she is not.
Yeah.
Parang ganun. Ayun, yun yung sa akin. Kaya parang feeling ko, yun yung lagi siya pumapasok doon. Either nakukonsensya siya, she takes on the form of the victim, and then, hindi ba, parang walking a mile in the victim's shoes, or parang ito yung gusto niya kasi, and she's giving in to the instinct. Ang question ko is, can you share? Gusto ko kayo pero hindi ko matandaan yung intro na text, yung title card at the beginning. I mean, ano bang ibig sabihin nun, or pwede niyo bang sabihin sa
Sure.
audience?
Wait, let me pull it up.
Philippine myths told of a
Ayan,
female
memorize.
Kasi in a sense in one single frame, in a few characters, text in a few letters, parang nakapag-create ng panibagong myth, a new explanation, o parang origin story ng Manananggal in a sense, 'di ba? Parang gano'n. Yeah.
Well, we put that there with the intent to educate non-Filipino viewers, people who aren't familiar with the Manananggal myth, but also to remind people who do know of the myth that I mean, we kind of wanted to frame already in the very beginning, palang frame the Manananggal in a certain light in which she's not a total monster.
It's a little human.
Nature.
Saan niyo nakuha yun? Sorry, parang, kasi first time ko na kasi usually pag sinabi natin Manananggal, it's just like, Manananggal, they prey on unborn children, on pregnant women, pero kumbaga wala tayo ibinigay na rational kung bakit niya ginagawa yun. It's just a monster na kailangan lang kumain to survive. And ito yung...
Hindi naman siya nagdo-drawing
True. At hindi siya nakatira sa apartment na may jealousy, na may katapat na kapitbahay. At halaman. Oo. At pakailamera.
When we saw the jealousy, that was like we're getting this place. There's a jealousy.
Yeah, pero it helped visually. Hindi ba doon sa team ng nung mga slices and all.
Yeah.
Doon sa slices, pagiging Manananggal, tapos pinapakita niyo yung scar niya sa chan. Parang I thought it was, if you really think about it, probably it was an accident. But I think nag-work siya ng maganda para mas maging thematic yung visuals.
Yes.
And we don't get to see jealousies anymore. Very few na lang. Yeah. Anyway, sige nga, is it available now? Can you share with us the text in the beginning?
Sorry, I'll just pull it up. Philippine myths told of a female creature who flew into the night, hunting for pregnant women and their wombs, craving the one thing her own body could never produce. For her body, feared by many, was split into two.
But have you always known yung ganong klaseng explanation kung bakit may Manananggal?
Kind of. We had heard, well, actually, we come from a really superstitious, family background. We have roots sa Iloilo, Laguna, some relatives in Capiz, na alam natin, the lore of the Manananggal is very strong, very rich in those parts. So we really were always interested sa mythology niya. But we had always seen her as the villain. I think my very first piece of Manananggal media that I ever saw was Shake, Rattle, and Roll. I think si Iza Calzado yung actress ng
Iza Calzado na napanood niya, Cenon.
Ako nga parang yun lang din ang alam ko eh.
I remember seeing it on TV. I was so scared.
How old are you?
I don't grade school.
School daw. Okay.
Manananggal si Isa Calzado. Sino mga kasama ni Isa Calzado? I'm just curious. I'm going to edit this out, but I'm really curious.
Basta, ang one very striking shot sa akin is, I think she's playing a mother or a tita, pero may access siya sa isang baby in her life. And mayroong isang shot na parang naka-hover siya sa crib ng baby and her long tongue came down in
Oh
slow
my
motion.
gosh.
Sabi ko, oh my God. And that was a really striking image to me. I think subconsciously even when we were developing Dikit, kasi I think historically, canonically, we've always seen the Manananggal as yun nga, an antagonist, a monster. Tapos, there's, I forget the title of the film, pero si Direk Tay Clamor na nag-mentor sa amin for this film, she was the DP, ang Manananggal sa apartment. I forgot the apartment.
Apartment 2B.
Number. Yes. Which is another piece of Manananggal media na maybe subverts the legend in its own way. But then again, I think for us, you asked, I think we always,
Actually, like you mentioned, we grew up listening to these stories from our elders. And so it's like it's in a way we grew up around or surrounded by these icons of Philippine mythology. And while it's normal to see them as villains or antagonists or things you don't want to ever encounter in your life, I think we grew up with a certain reverence towards them. Like we had this huge respect towards these creatures, and when the chance came for us to have the Manananggal as our main character, obviously she has to come from someplace. There has to be motive. We wanted her to, of course, be coming from somewhere, as any human would. When we made her character, actually, her story starts way before the events of Dikit. She was actually human once.
Yeah.
She's actually human. This is all just we don't know if this is like real or anything.
We researched the lore of the Manananggal. Tapos we found out na there's parang may angle nga na at some point many hundreds of years ago, she was just a regular woman who was about to be wed.
And then she was cursed.
So that's one parang iteration of the legend na we wanted to explore din. But of course, short silent film, we couldn't really.
No time.
There was no time. Pero I think in developing the character, we knew that she had some kind of human past. And parang na-curse lang siya. And now she had to live with her.
Because I see her as human. Right? She's just a girl with a strange diet that she doesn't want to be on.
That's my relationship with sugar.
Pero yeah, as 'di ba? Ganun naman as creator, as even if you do not show these things, itong backstory na to, but as creator, as writer, it has to be clear sa inyo because it will add nuance kasi doon sa characters, 'di ba? Hindi mo kailangan ipakita na she was human once or she was cursed, etc., etc. But actually yung mga I mean the way you write, yung the way she reacts to things, yung mga nuances ng mga tingin niya and all, alam mo kung saan siya nanggagaling para hindi siya nanggagaling from the void yung character. So yeah, that's very good. Ginagawa talaga yung assignment ng
Yeah, that's wonderful to hear. Kaya pala yung the way she moves, like how Sam portrayed her. There's a lot of shame also in she.
Yes.
It's not like she's angry. She's not angry. Diba?
Yes.
Galing. Kaya pala, clear pala sa kanila.
In relation to that, and just to add to the whole void analysis, where she ends up in that
parang purgatory
niya. Yeah. Ate and I thought it was interesting, like we got so far into her headspace na we created that place for her. She kind of goes into a trance when she attacks, when she eats, because she doesn't want to live
Experience
that
it.
moment. She just wants to be somewhere else, and that's where she goes.
While she's committing the act of violence.
Yeah,
Parang it's her way to
kind of blind
because
herself.
She splits
Yeah.
into
Yes, exactly. And
Exactly. That's good. Like she not only does she split physically, pero mentally then she
splits.
yes.
yeah.
Gabby, tawag dito, is it directing films? Is it something that you have always wanted, or is it by accident? Ang gusto mo talaga is maging illustrator sa comics or editor, tapos napunta ka lang sa pagdidirect ng pelikula, or is it alam mo na this is going to be your ultimate goal as a creator, as an artist?
Yes, I think I think I realized siguro mga actually it's a well, long story short, I did mention I came from an illustration graphic design background. From my childhood, that was all I really did. I drew, I made comics. So I was kind of I think with the support of my parents as well. My father comes from both my parents come from an advertising background. So parang I think from a young age na established na okay, maybe I'm going into that path na rin. And so I really knew I was going to do something creative growing up. But I didn't exactly know what it would be. So parang yes lang ako. Okay, I'll do graphic design illustration kasi yun naman yung parang what I'm good at now. But then I think there was always parang a yearning for something more. Lalo na when I was in high school, I was watching more and more films, and I was always the designated taga-video ng mga events, ng mga project, taga-edit. Those early seeds of maybe a filmmaking sense, directing sense, were starting to emerge. But of course, because I wanted to make money, a lucrative career noon pa lang, I said, okay, I'll choose a course na siguro mas aligned, mas safe, mas sure. So I chose multimedia arts, which is a graphic design based course. And I think after just a few months of being in that course, I thought, wait, I'm in the wrong course. I was starting to see film students from my same college and starting to feel really jealous. I was really falling in love with cinema from the movies I watched. And I was realizing more and more na I think I would be able to better express myself through film. Because I think film really encapsulates so many of my interests. Apart from illustration, graphic design, merong photography element, may writing, may music element. So it's such a holistic art form. And I remember very specifically my first year of college, just completely turning, okay, I want to do film. So that was the start of a really long battle towards reaching that dream. I tried to shift from MMA to film, but I wasn't allowed to kasi wala na raw space sa course. And I was a scholar at the time, so I couldn't shift my course anymore. So pinanindigan ko na lang until the end. But as soon as I was done with college and I was able to make my student films, small video projects during that time, I wasn't really able to pursue my my want to be a director until I got out of college. So as soon as I was done with school, I started interning for different productions. I worked at a production house. So yeah, I think from that point, I was really set on becoming a director talaga, even though I was still working to some capacity as a visual artist. I think these past few years I've really been working towards that goal. And thankfully, yun nga, this call for entries fell into our laps to make this film at a very vulnerable time in our lives, na questioning our careers. And when that call for entries came, or when that challenge came to make this film, I think that's why we were so eager to jump into it.
Yeah.
Kasi,
We've been waiting.
because we've been, not just me, but Sam also has been wanting to act and write for a long time na rin, even though subconsciously. Sam actually came from a physical therapy background. So we both, even though we're both newcomers to this discipline, and this is our first film,
It seems like it's been a long time coming.
yeah, it's been a long time coming, and we've really wanted to do this for a long time.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah, it's very apparent. Like we can see how you guys are really, your psyche is prepared to do the film.
Thank
We
you.
can hear it from your explanation. So congratulations, Jenna. But that's I'm really very interested on how naturally, parang instinctively, you already know the steps, like how the process, the creative process of creating a film in all its elements, even if you did not have like a filmmaking education background. But it's amazing how you get in. Of course, it can be something universal for all artists. Pero in this sense, I can see how in tune you are with your voice. Diba? Can you explain that further? Parang you have a very clear voice that I can hear with the way the two of you explain. Meron eh.
That means a lot. I think ako mismo parang I'm still not sure how we did it. Kasi from the development stage, every step of the way has been very instinctive. We really made our creative decisions out of because of an emotional basis, or
Yeah.
whatever felt right. We had no handbook. We did as much research as we could. But of course, we were thrown into this as beginners, and majority of our crew were also first-time filmmakers. So every step of the way felt like a gut feeling guess. But I think that also added to I guess what has been the success of the film so far. Na parang every decision we made was really out of with heart, you
Yeah.
know.
Sincerity. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope so, and I'm just thankful that we were able to finish the film uh on those terms with ourselves, and of course with the guidance of our mentors, then who were very very helpful. We had si Sir Nick De Ocampo, who actually was part of the selection committee, who selected our film as one of the 10 or 9 or 10 who would be given production grants for the silent films. So he really gave us a lot of advice on Dikit. We also had si Sir John Torres and si Direct Tay Clamor, who gave input naman sa visuals and sa storytelling. But even so, I think even they reminded us na the storytelling or the development of the characters in the story would always be like an instinctual, like a rhythmic thing.
Yeah.
And there was no one way to go about this film.
Yeah, I think that's why we can't really recall much about like the whole process.
True, it's a very much a blur.
Yeah. But actually, I wanted to add one of our favorite directors, Jonathan Glazer, who made Under the Skin and Birth, which both served as huge influences for Dikit.
Mm-mm.
I remember.
Sorry, one thing is, we went into this blind, but we really couldn't have done it without those films
Yeah.
that we really were inspired by. We
Shout out pa naman.
shout out kay Direk Laser. Well, we can go into those later, pero as you were saying, Sam.
Yeah, when we were lucky to find one of these videos of him on YouTube, which was like him basically breaking down the film,
Birth.
Birth.
Starring Nicole Kidman.
Yeah, and I guess the one thing that really struck both of us, which looking back kind of carried us through the whole thing, was he said it starts with a feeling. And that's basically, it's like it applies to everything that we did.
Yeah, from the
It
beginning.
did start with a feeling, you know. The story changed so much from like the very first logline that we made. We would talk about it in the car, in the grocery, while lining up with our dad. We really just kind of brainstormed and put
Everywhere.
we just put so much love into it, and I hope that like translated on screen. This really was just like
Feeling.
a feeling. And I think what also really helped was having the crew be composed of family and close friends talaga. Like we I don't know how, but everything was just so magical. Everything we kind of made this, I mean, Dikit, the word Dikit, it can mean different things based on context, right? And like it means different things in different regions of the country also. But like in our little production, we kind of
Use
made
it as
another
an expression.
we made another
Catchphrase.
we basically gave it another meaning. Like we found little coincidences between each other, and everything that would align magically, we'd say like
Dikit.
oh, it was like really it could range from Mika and Jared, who played the boyfriend girlfriend, having the same favorite ulam on set, and then to like me and Mika actually, because we were classmates when we were in high school, and we had lost touch all these years, but then she got in touch with me again when she saw the casting call, and that's how we found her to play the girlfriend. But like when we were looking at our old photos, turns out we played very similar parts to our characters now in the school play when we were in sophomore year. So that was another Dikit moment. Basta there's so many moments that were so magical and just coincidental, and everything was so aligned, even up to today. When we had our gala at Cinemalaya, the awards night in Cinemalaya, when you won Best Director and Dikit won Special Jury Prize, we realized that our Dikit group chat was made exactly a year before. So that was such a
another
moment. So
amazing yung alignment, etc. But since Sam mentioned it, parang I'm really curious of your dynamic as sisters and also as co-creators. Like, you mentioned kasi kahit nag-grocery or anong pinag-usapan. Bring us back to that. Like, how were you, like, was there any tension in, like, or did you find creating Dikit overpowered the rest of your household dynamic? Yung ganun, explain that to us.
Honestly, Dikit, I think the very core of Dikit is that we're Dikit. we're so like my mom says it's like we're twins talaga. We can't be separated. We share a room, we share everything with each other, and we've always been this way. We've always been very close to each other. So I think
we have our petty disagreements. But then
as sisters.
I think as collaborators, we didn't really have any, we just really focused on the story, and we were really obsessed with it. Walang like a family work boundary balance. Wala talaga, as in we would be lying in bed making chika, kunyari, tapos bigla na lang, sa isang scene, why don't we do this, do that? Or we'd be lining up for groceries, and then may maisip si Sam na parang plot point or something about the character, and then she'd go to me and say, ate, why don't we make this, make that, and then we'd note it down agad. So yeah, I think very central sisterhood dynamic namin.
Bond.
For the I guess the success of the storytelling. And I think that's why those feelings, the solidarity maybe that you mentioned, maski platonic siya, those were really the core. And yeah, I think we wouldn't have made such an effective story without.
Yeah, actually,
Yes.
like our film was silent, and looking back, I think like many times our like the way we'd communicate was also like pretty non-verbal.
Oo, parang
Yeah, like we just really understood each other, and I'm so thankful for that because I mean, how common is it
yeah.
to like forge a creative partnership with your sister, especially because we've never collaborated on something like this before.
That's true.
We would like, I mean, since we grew up together, it's like for as long as I could remember, we just would love telling each other stories in our room. We'd make these silly little stories in our bedroom, and I'm just so happy that, I mean, Dikit was one of them, obviously, and one of them found its way out of our bedroom and then to you guys screen.
Ang question ko is, the decision to co-write and collaborate para dito sa pelikulang Dikit, when did you make that decision? Or from the very beginning ba, alam niyo na talaga that, you're going to co-write this, you're going to write this together, and then Gabby is going to direct it, and Sam is going to be the Manananggal or the actor?
Well, when the call for entries first came, when I made the decision to pitch, I think I was solo at that moment.
I remember I was like a graduate pa lang pa. I was like writing my thesis. So I remember
She was
you
super stressed in thesis.
And then I remember I clearly remember you, like you peeked in the door and you were like, I have something to tell you later, which was basically her telling me about this new grant that she's gonna try out for. And you have tried out for different grants before, right?
Yeah.
And so this was just like, okay,
Another one.
Good luck. Good luck. And then I remember that same night I was sleeping, but then I remember it was so late and the lights were still open and you were still writing something. And then when I woke up the next morning, you were like, I made something, why don't you take a look at this? And then I did, and I was like, oh, that's so interesting. That was basically her first log line for Dikit, which is kind of different from the log line that we have now. And then immediately, like, I pitched something. I was like, I just kind of threw another idea at you, and then you were like, oh my god, that could work. And so it just kind of would be like that.
Back
Like, so
and forth.
so it's like it was just a natural me
Yeah.
becoming
Yeah, I
Your
think initially I
co-writer.
was just asking her as a sister,
yeah.
and then eventually I realized I need her insight. I need her writing for this. So that's how she became a part of it.
Yeah, that was so nice for me because like after months or like a year of like writing my thesis, like finally I could yeah, I mean, I've always seen myself as a writer, but I mean, this was like incredibly freeing for me. It came at such a like it was the perfect timing, me like leaving the medical
world
into
the Manananggal.
another Dikit.
Yung this is part of Cinemalaya 2022, and but of course while tapos na yung screening ng Cinemalaya sa Cultural Center of the Philippines at saka sa mga Ayala malls at saka sa mga SM malls, Pero Cinemalaya is parang in a sense parang touring these films. Lahat ng mga entry, mga finalists sa iba't ibang parts ng bansa. And it's going to be it's going the screening in different parts of the country will last until October if I'm not mistaken, no? Saan nila ngayon mapapanood yung pelikula, yung Dikit, if somebody wants to catch it?
Um, well, we have an upcoming Cinemalaya in Dapitan. We will be presenting our film along with the other shorts, the finalists, I
Yeah.
believe, sa Dapitan.
Actually, no, just
Oh,
Black Rainbow.
Okay, we'll be going there with Black Rainbow by Direk Zig Dulay, na nag-best short film. And I believe we also have screenings sa Bacolod,
Iloilo.
Iloilo. I think we also have Cinematheque Negros screening.
Oh, yeah.
So multiple locations in Visayas will be showing Dikit. And then of course, after the regional run, meron po tayong online run this October. Audiences will be able to watch Dikit and all the other Cinemalaya official selection films on the Cinemalaya Vimeo channel. So we hope that people can catch our film there along with all the other great shorts that were at Cinemalaya this year.
And they have last words, parting words para dun sa mga nanonood, people who have already seen the kit and really loved it, and para dun sa mga may tumatahol na aso. sa katabing namin yan. Excited din yung aso. Ayun. And then para dun sa mga interesadong makapanood ng Dikit, do you have something to say to them?
First of all, thank you to everyone who came out to see our film during its first run sa Cinemalaya. We really appreciate each and every one of you who was who were part of the audience and who also approached us and shared their own feelings and interpretations about the film. Sobrang validating as a storyteller to hear that you were able to resonate with our characters. And we thank each and every one of you po talaga for supporting our film. And for those who have yet to watch Dikit, we hope that you can catch our film, find the time to see it along with the other great shorts that we're with. And I hope this film speaks especially to young female filmmakers as well as queer and trans and non-binary young filmmakers. I think one of the very core messages of our film is self-acceptance and self-identity, as well as solidarity with others. And I hope that this is something that inspires young filmmakers to also explore and to also be more sure of themselves in their own creative voice, in their own personal voice. Sana po yun nga, maging inspiration, or I guess a guiding work for those young filmmakers who were wanting to make their own directorial debut as we did. So ayun po, Sam.
Well, I don't want to go after that. Like, you got everything. But thank you. Just endlessly thankful to everyone who supported us ever since pre-production, when we were crowdfunding for this project. It really would not be possible without everyone's help, and with the reception that we've been receiving from the Cinemalaya run, we're just so overwhelmed positively, and we hope to meet more of you and talk more about the film. I hope this reaches you, and I hope you feel the love that we put into it. We have our own Dikits in the film, but I think by watching it, we also are able to Dikit with each other. That's so corny, but really, yeah, it means the world to us that you
see yourself in the
appreciate,
film,
yeah,
and appreciate
the film, and yeah, that's all we want anyway, for you to see yourselves in the film, and to resonate with the characters there and the story there. So yeah, thank you.
What can we expect from you guys? Like any brewing project?
Well, currently, I'm writing my first full length. Hindi po siya silent or split screen. I think we're done with that challenge. But without saying too much about it, it is also centered on women, women's struggles, and maybe in a more contemporary urban
Yeah.
setting. And hopefully, with luck and with support, we'll be able to bring it to life within, I don't know, maybe the next few months or maybe next year. Yeah.
Yeah, just gonna keep following that feeling.
Mm-mm.
And so, Sam and Abby, thank you for taking the time, sharing your experience and the whole intellectualization of all these things. It makes sense now why the film is the way it is. No? When I watched it, I was with my daughter. She's 18 years old. So pagka nood namin, pagka labas na title, ganyan. So nagtinginan kami ganon. Tapos nagtad kami. Ganon, diba? So, that was like it can show you like how it really not only resonated but it nag-overflow whatever dikitness there is in the film, nag-overflow siya. So thank you for taking the time. I wish in the future, if you have other projects, we will always be here to like help you make the world understand. And I think this is something, your filmmaking, your artistry in whatever form pa outside of filmmaking, I think the world deserves to see that. So congratulations sa pelikula niyo.
Thank you so
po.
much.
Tapos, meron kaming tradition that we take a screenshot. So, mag-screenshot tayo.
Are we okay?
Are you
Ganda
okay?
talaga ng ganda talaga ng mga buhok nila.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So, 5, 4, 3, 2. It seems like bitin na bitin yung usapan. It's already, imagine, like, I feel like there are more things to talk about. Maybe in the future we can invite you again. We can talk about
We'd love
feminism, women, film, etc.
Yes,
Anytime.
please. Oh my gosh.
Time. And then siguro just a final note, because I've been researching about women directors from the early cinema, and I've always in my head I was thinking they must be imagining a future while they were doing their films. Like, why are they trying so hard to pave the way for women's filmmaking? There could be an imagined future there, and I think it shows now. Like, knowing you guys, this is they imagine that there will be more women writing, and then in that sense, your identity also is in their past. When you see their films, that's also you. So maybe you can try to watch their films, and then you see. It's amazing. I know it's something super wonderful for me also as a woman, seeing more women creating with an awareness, an awareness that this is a project beyond filmmaking. That film is just a tool, but there is also a larger struggle that we're addressing. So
Yes,
thank you.
And thank you all for opening up a feminist conversation within the conversation. We need more of that.
Yes.
And I think
And for validating our intentions.
Yes.
Thank you. See you again soon. Have a good day.
Have a good day.
Thank
This was
you.
so
Have a
fun.
good
Thank you so
day.
much.